He spoke his mind. He didn't care whether he was white, black, what. He speak his mind. And at that time, the country, the world, was in such a turmoil. Whenever there was a group of black people trying to get together, they'd break them up. They'd break them up diplomatically, you could say. They'd throw them in jail. Claim they tried to rape some woman. They got the most vicious ideas. Look how they did the Kennedy brothers. Mrs. Kennedy raised those boys like gods. I could see it in their manner when you were with them. I used to campaign with them. And you could see it in their manner. They were gentlemen, through and through. Well, what did they do? They found something ugly. They make it. They don't have to find it. They'll make it and pin it on them.
And you get caught up in a thing. Why were so many people so afraid of Malcolm X?
They knew he had this little boy. Malcolm was walking around in a tuxedo. I had him at a wedding once. He's walking around in a tuxedo, condemning a white man, because the white man stepped on a lady's foot. It was a white lady. He stepped on her foot, but Malcolm didn't like it. So he couldn't say, now you were a man, you wouldn't have stepped on her foot and act like she was the one that's guilty. You walked on her foot. I'm standing right here. Had his hand in his pocket. I'm standing right here looking at you, and you stepped on her foot and didn't even say make an apology. He was mad. He went home mad. Yeah, that's the kind of person he was. But he was too little for what he knew, for his mind. He was much too small. Even when he was ready to go, he was ready to go that night when they killed him. When the white man knew that he was ready. He was ready.
What do you mean he was ready to go the night he was killed?
You have to be ready in spirit. You have to be ready in mind. You have to see the world for what it really is, not some makeshift movie.
You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? What was your name? It couldn't have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. That wasn't your name. They don't have those kind of names where you and I came from. No, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history? What did the man do to make you as dumb as you are right now?
Who did this? Hold up. I seen statue.
Hitler.
Right here.
Hitler was a Bush in St. Louis. He's a Bush. And so, this is why I said, Lee, first of all, what the fuck are you doing in my dream? I ain't seen you in 30 years. And why are you trying to stop me from getting away from these white men? As soon as you touched me, I went to sleep. And then I figured it out. They stole Arthur's they stole his rings, his watch, his crown. They got Arthur Richardson out there. They got Jacob Adams burned at Claysville Cemetery. They got a burnt tree. They got his gravestone in there, and they got another one that says Parallel Circle.
Why do you have to go through all this to figure everything out?
Because that's what you got to do. That's the only way that Jesus is going to come in your mind and show you him. I'm telling you, whenever you see it, man, you got to go through a whole bunch of trials. First you got to think that life is a video game. Then you got to think that what you got to realize is this. We've been dying over and over and over and coming back in different bodies, all of us. If you go out there, you will see yourself a bunch of times. But we're living here, we're breathing right now, right? So guess what? You can kill a body all day long, but you can't never kill a soul. So once that soul realizes what you did, then he ain't got no power, and then he gotta go, and he know it. And that's why everybody thinks the Antichrist is coming. The Antichrist has always been here. Where did Jesus throw Adam and Eve out when he caught them doing that bullshit? Where did it say? It said that he threw them out of the clouds onto the earth. Where we at? Earth. Every fucking thing in life is based off Wizard of Oz and movies.
You have to see the world for what it really is, not some makeshift movie.
What was your name? It couldn't have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. That wasn't your name. They don't have those kind of names where you and I came from. No, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history? What did the man do to make you as dumb as you are right now?
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now.
Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
So the plantation system, in a smaller and modified way, continued and can be found in the South today. Much of the work is still done by hand. Much of the wealth still comes from one crop, cotton. Most of the workers are Negroes who live on the plantation.
Who are you? You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? What was your name? It couldn't have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. That wasn't your name. They don't have those kind of names where you and I came from. No, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history? What did the man do to make you as dumb as you are right now?
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
From the 15th century to the 19th century AD, slavery existed for the so-called Negro who was exiled from Israel and stolen from Africa. Since then, the true identity of the Negro Bantus people has been a mystery until now. Are you ready for the truth? Are you ready for the Bible to be revealed? Well, who are the sons of Ham? Where are the sons of Shem? And where are the sons of Japheth? And who are the real children of Israel? How can DNA prove who are the real Israelites in Africa? What is the true biblical origin of the Native American Indians? Why does Hollywood always get biblical history wrong? And who are the real Ishmaelite Arabs? What is the true biblical origin of the Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews in Israel today? Why has the Negro's identity been kept a secret? Coming in 2018, a movie like no other. The religious world will be rocked. Hebrews to Negroes, wake up, Black America. Shalom, family, and all praises to the Most High Yah. Now, you have just watched the official theatrical trailer to the movie Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up, Black America. Now, I'm excited about this movie because I started this movie a year ago with my own money because I wanted black people to know the true identity of who they are according to the Bible. Now, it's important because in mainstream Hollywood, the typical movies that we get are slave movies, biblical movies that show us in the wrong light, such as servants, slaves, or beggars, and also movies about white supremacy and coonery and foolery movies to make us laugh. So why is it important? I'm gonna give you two reasons why it's important that we have a movie like this. Now, most of us African Americans grew up in the black church, as myself. Now, being the son of a pastor, I've had the Bible in my house for a very long time. Now, when most black people read the Old Testament and they read the different people in the Bible, such as the Canaanites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Edomites, the Ishmaelites, and the Cushites, and also the sons of Shem, a lot of times we don't have no clue as to who these people are according to the Bible as it is today in the 21st century. So a lot of times the Old Testament is skipped over and we go straight to the New Testament. Well, the Bible is a book about our history. It's a book about prophecy. It's a book about salvation, redemption. It's a book about judgment. It's also a book about end times prophecy. Now, we all know that end times prophecy revolves around the children of Israel and the nations. So it's very important that we know who is who according to the Bible as it is today. Now, the second reason is that all historians know, such as George Orwell and others, that the people that control the past or the history, they control the future. So as long as they're able to control our history and our past and give us basically the teaching that we are just descendants of slaves, we're always going to think that we have no identity and we are just African Americans. But our history goes back farther. It goes back to descendants of the children of Israel. So this movie is going to be very important for our people. I'm asking everybody, if you agree with my mission and what I'm doing, to support if you can. Now, you can go to GoFundMe at www.gofundme.com/Hebrews to Negroes to donate to help me with this movie and future movies to come to show us who we are as a people. Now, it's a whole lot of information to cover, so obviously this won't be the first movie that we'll be doing in regards to showing who are the biblical Hebrew Israelites. As you know, in the Hebrews to Negroes books, I cover a vast array of topics, not just in Africa, but in the Americas, in Asia, in India, also in the Pacific Islands, and also in the Caribbean. You know, Israel, I'm very, very tired, like many of you are, and I'm sure the black church, when they watch TV, they're tired of seeing us shed in a negative light in movies and TV and music. You know, the Bible is about us. And it's time for us to take back what was taken from us and to restore the real children of Israel. So in spring of 2018, the world is about to be shaken. The three Abrahamic religions, the founding fathers of these religions, the Catholic Church, Talmudic Judaism, and Islam, that have been promoting lies and have been keeping the secret of who we are as a people, all of that is going to come to an end. So when this movie, Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up, Black America, comes out, it's going to be the talk of the town. Now, if Yah has placed in your heart to support this movie and wake up the lost sheep of Israel, I'm asking every one of you to go to www.gofundme.com/Hebrews to Negroes and support this movie. This movie is going to be monumental for our people. Once again, they said, is the children of Israel waking up? We sure are waking up. Are we come back for the kingdom? We come back for that kingdom. 2018 spring, the movie Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. Get ready, folks. It's about to go down.
No.
You know what I did? The fucking You know what I fucking suffered? He fucking suffered because of you! And what have you done, my fucking house? And my fucking kid's grace? You're fucking my brother! You're fucking my brother, my fucking house! I love you, Grace! You know how much I love you! You know what I know what I fucking... You know what I can do with these fucking ass cards!
It's my decision to get clean. I did it for me. Admittedly, I probably did it subliminally for you. So I can come back a brand new me. You have seen me through and don't even realize what you did. Believe me, I've been through the ringer, but they can do little to the middle finger. I think I got a tear in my eye. I feel like the king of my world. Haters connect like bees when those stingers and drop dead. No more beef lingers, no more drama from now on. I promise to focus solely on handling my responsibilities as a father. So I solemnly swear to always treat this roof like my daughters and raise it. You couldn't lift a single on it. Cause the way I feel, I'm strong enough to go to the club or the corner bar and lift the whole liquor counter up. Cause I'm raising the bar. I shoot for the moon, but I'm too busy gazing at stars. I feel the station and
good to each other. Plus I love you, so I know you gon' make a good mother. Just try to understand if I change the time, it's only cause I never owned anything that's mine. So I'm trying, you can stay with my mama, but keep the drama to a low. Never call the police, I never call you bitch a hoe. We were all born hungry in this world alone. Finally moved out my mom's house and got a happy home.
The bullshit, the drama, the guns, the armor, the city, the farmer, the babies, the mama, the projects, the drugs, the children, the thugs, the tears, the hugs, the love, the slugs, the funerals, the wakes, the churches, the coffins, the heartbroken mothers. It happens too often. The problems, the things we use to solve them. Yonkers, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem.
You got to see the world and the people for what they really are. And you got to pen judgment on them. You got to know where to pen and who to pen it on. And Malcolm had reached this point.
How would you like for the world to remember Malcolm as we see young kids walking around wearing the X on the hat and his pictures on the clothes? What do you want them to know about the man that they are commemorating in that way?
Now, for me to answer that, I might mislead you. You know, you don't ask what you want them to know about Jesus. Of course, he's been on the scene a long time. But few people will say, what do you want to know about the man? They don't know nothing about him. What they read and hear and see for feeling in their heart, that's the extent of Malcolm. Malcolm has not been seen yet. He's not been heard yet.
Why do you think there's so much interest in him now among young people? Why do young...
He's the man. He's the one that's coming. And you will know him as if you knew him in person. Things will reveal themselves to many, many people.
Following Malcolm's call, one line in the book stayed with me. For he spoke of a wish he'd once had, the wish that the white blood that ran through him there by an act of violence might somehow be expunged.
Channel 9, Kenneth Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
Sportsman's Paradise. That's how the material read back in 1900, Sportsman's Paradise, and you see what is really a far cry from what used to be here on the banks of Little River. You see a gentleman, one lone gentleman in a boat here fishing. But let me tell you, there is a lot of history in this place. We're going to float the floodway ditches today, and we're going to talk about some of that history. You see in this Little River Drainage District, you see an area at Hornersville where some 5 or 6 or 7 ditches flow. Supposedly, back in early years, maybe before men, maybe when only Indians were here, probably the whole area between the St. Francis and the Mississippi River were one broad, vast floodplain. Drainage ditches by man have come in and cut their way and made this area able to be farmed, and indeed this is rich farming community here in this Hornersville area. You're looking at an area called Pierce Landing and Park. Here in Hornersville there is a beautiful spot that really was not known to us to exist, and we have the gentleman for whom this is named. This is Mr. Carl Pierce, who is Deputy Sheriff, Dunklin County, and Carl, you're City Marshal in Hornersville.
Chief of Police. I'm the tax collector, the water commissioner, and the sewer commissioner.
If Carl died, Hornersville would have to close down, wouldn't they, Carl?
Well, I don't know about that.
All right. We're standing in an area that there's a lot of history to. Carl, what about I didn't know this new bridge was back here.
Well, this bridge has been here now, I'd say about 3 years, been completed about 3 years. This was put in here by the Missouri Fish and Wildlife. Starting out on this bridge here, now this was a trestle. And the railroad here was abandoned. They were tearing the trestles out. And structures that we're going to go look at after a while, I mean, was the reason I bought this trestle over here.
You bought a trestle that they were tearing out. Okay.
Yes, I'm off of Mr. Bob Bennings, Railroad Salvage.
All right. Now, what were they going to do with this area when they tore the trestle out? That was a railroad trestle, right?
That's right. This would just be a ditch dump. That's all it would amount to. No one could get over here. When we've got to get here in order to get to the other 6 ditches that empties into this floodway ditch. See?
Okay. So you bought the trestle, and then what happened? How'd they happen to build a bridge?
Well, I had in mind just getting oak lumber and flooring the trestle, making a bridge out of it. And I got to talking to Mr. Nelson Tennant, the state senator, and he told me a fellow to call in Jefferson City, Mr. Frank Rick. And he said, now, if you'll tell him that what you're needing over there and why you do need it, he said, I believe they would go along with you and go in there and build a bridge there. So I called Mr. Frank Rick at Jefferson City, and I told him that I had the trestle bought, and I had the right-of-way to get to the trestle from the city of Hornersville. The people there were real nice. Mr. Manley Horner, Miss Alma Buss, and Alan Young here of Hornersville. He lives right here as we're coming into this.
So they were all interested in getting a way back into the river.
That's right. And they give their part of the roadway, I mean the railroad right-of-way back, see.
Yeah.
So we could do this.
Okay.
And
so the government came in and built this bridge.
That's right.
Eventually. All right. Through Mr. Nelson Tennant's contact and name and telling you, and a lot of work on your part.
Well, Mr. Rick, I called him, Frank Rick at Jefferson City, and he sent Larry Gill and Steve Young from Missouri Fish and Wildlife down here to represent him. And we got this thing started, and it took us about a year to get it worked out, but you can see what they've built here. They have a real nice landing here going into floodway ditch or loading ramp, and we have a good parking area out here.
You see Harnesville in the distance. We're just really a stone's throw away, and when we came out here the other day, Mr. Pierce was back here with a weed eater, really working on this area. You try to maintain this, and what about this park area back here? Is that all? Does that all belong to you?
Yes, ma'am. I own the park area from here to Arkansas state line. This was made available to me by the Little River Drainage District.
Okay.
I have a lease on that land.
All right, and so we're going to be able to float down past there, and maybe you can give us some history of anything you have heard the old-timers talk about, what this area was like when Little River was its own meandering river up and down. All right, we just pulled away from Pierce Landing. 2-3 more boats in the water where we are. You wouldn't think there'd be that kind of traffic out here, but there is today. Okay, very apparent that we're here where, 3 or 4?
Well, there's 3 ditches right now meeting right here coming in here.
Carl, have you heard have you heard a lot of stories about what this land might have looked like back before these floodway ditches were cut?
Oh, this was all swampland. I mean, there wasn't any ditches or ditch banks like you see here. This was all water and swamp.
Okay, now
this was a duck hunting and fishing paradise. People came from everywhere.
Okay, does this go right into the floodway ditches at Kennett?
Yes, ma'am, that sure does.
Okay, crosses under the bridge at Kennett. So you can get in this boat and go from here. How far north can you go?
I've been from here to Risco.
And what's at Risco to stop you?
Well, the water got too shallow.
Oh, okay. All right. Pierce Landing. This is a favored spot for all of Hornersville to come down to put in boats. It's been made into a picnicking, a camping, a recreation area that's really well maintained by Mr. Carl Pierce. Right on the banks of what was once the meandering Little River. Today we're going to float down past this Pierce Landing point, and we're going down all the way to the locks, across the floodway ditches as far as we can go, because the locks will be down, the dam it will be closed. We'll be in the area of Manila, Arkansas. We'll cross from Missouri into Arkansas in just a matter of a few moments here by way of boat. Okay, do many people use this? Yeah, you have crowds out here late afternoon or evening?
I've seen about, I'll say 75 to 100 kids out here. They always come out and swim every day.
Okay, the ducks and the geese over there, how in the world do you keep the hunters from blasting away at them? They're tame. How do they keep from getting killed in the fall?
Well, we have up signs that there is, tame ducks here, no hunting. There's no hunting on this land right here that I've leased from here to Arkansas.
Okay, no hunting between where, here and...
From the park area to Arkansas, this is a dump here between floodway and 81 ditch. There'll be no hunting on it.
At wide open throttle down floodway ditch area. And Carl, what's this that we approach?
This is the Arkansas locks here. We just got into Arkansas. And this here controls the water. They can take all the water, or they can hold the water up. Seems like they want to take all of it.
Okay, so Arkansas, each state can control whatever the water that passes through there. They can put any kind of lock, any kind of dam they want to, and no other state has anything to say about it.
This is controlled by the Corps of Engineers. So far, this thing I don't think has been operated right. We were supposed to have about 2 foot of water left in Hornersville that we don't seem to ever get anymore.
Well, as we came out this morning, Barry McFarland was here and very interested in what we were doing. Tell me a little bit about, and he's following along behind us in the boat. Tell me what Barry's interested in doing.
Well, Barry's interested in doing just what all the fishermen and hunters are interested in. He wants the water level kept up another 2 foot higher, which wouldn't hurt us one bit.
Okay. Why will they not keep it up another 2? You mean that would mean that they would close these locks and let this water back up here? Why do they not want to do it, Carl?
Well, they say if they close these gates here and let the water back up, they have a spillway, low water spillway over in Buck Ditch. Go down State Line Ditch and go back south. They say that turns all the muddy water into Big Lake, and they don't want that.
All right, is just across these locks or spillway, is that Big Lake? Does it go right into Big Lake?
This one on the left right here will take you right into Big Lake.
This area right here is what the old timers called Swiftwater. This is where all the swamp went back into Little River, which goes into the lake. This structure was passed in 1964 by Congress to build these structures, which have been on the drawing board since 1950, to divert the water around Big Lake to help flood control.
Carl, the cabins I'm seeing up here, the homes, what's the story on them?
Well, these are cabins here that people in Hornersville own. These cabins have been here for, I know, 50 years.
Okay, all right.
And they come down here and fish, hunt, spend the weekend.
Is the access to them only by boat? There's no road that comes in back there?
No road that comes to us. We're going to the lowest point in Missouri as far as sea level concerned.
Now, what do you call this channel?
We are right now in Arkansas State Line Ditch. This ditch on the left of us here, you're in Missouri. On the right of you here, you're in Arkansas. That splits the states up right here.
Okay, now, on the map, are we across the bottom of the Boot Hill? Is that where we are on the map? I can't picture this quite.
That's right. All right, now we are at the lowest point of the state of Missouri.
And we just dragged bottom at the lowest point in the state of Missouri. Carl, been a lot of fish stories told about this place, a lot of fish caught out of here. I know that hanging in the Dunklin County Museum is a huge gar, 8 feet long, I believe I've heard, or a little over, and weighing hundreds of pounds. And you are in this picture when they're holding that gar up to be weighed. What about the circumstances? Where'd they get the gar? And are there anything like that, any gar like that now?
Well, this gar, where we're holding up at out there at the first trestle, that gar came right about 200 yards south of that area there.
Now, how'd you catch him?
Well, really, the gar ran up between 2 piling. They was pulling out piling there, bridge piling, and had them strung out up on the bank in a V shape, and the gar in the high waters run up between the 2 piling, got trapped, and that gar there was chopped in the head with a chopping axe for Raymond Springer.
He run up between 2 piling and just got caught. Now, if that's not a fish story, I have never heard.
That's what happened there on that one. Now, there's been some large gars caught.
Well, now, I heard there were 3 big gars, and they got 2 of them.
Well, there's one of the gars at Kennett at the museum, and there's one gar up here at Little Leonard Edmondson's den.
We've enjoyed our trip. A little bit of the history it's afforded us learning about the Hornersville area, one of the oldest cities in the Boot Hill area. We hope you've enjoyed this bit of history with us.
And we will all know him. I will know him better. And I thought I knew him well enough.
Okay. But when you see, you've heard about the kids wearing the caps with the X on it and the pictures and stuff like that?
Called me about it. Boston Globe.
Yeah.
they called me about so many children. Why are so many children interested in Malcolm X now? Last week or so, it was just Malcolm X. Well, now he's going to the head of the class, he was trying to say. That's not enough. You know, I'm not giving you enough there to help too much, but you add what you want to it.
No, I'm just going to ask
Malcolm
you some
didn't come
questions.
here and stayed for those few years to play.
Why do you think he had to, you know, there were some obviously forces that felt he had to go. Who were those forces had to be killed, and why?
I'm glad you asked me that. Just as they were wiping out the Kennedy sons and the other, my family, my whole family of men were killed, you know. Yes, including my father. Malcolm, somewhere in the Bible or somewhere you're going to read about Malcolm. He didn't come to play. He didn't come to... You know how Malcolm got married? He always wanted someone like me. Now, I don't have to be white, because I don't know you, but I'm going to marry somebody, Mama, with Ella, just like you.
You think you and Betty are alike?
Mm-hmm. So, he went to New York on a speaking engagement. And he told me, he said, Mama, I met her. So I said, I'm not your mother. He said, I know, but if you meet this person, you'll think she's your mother. Your mother and my mother. Really? I gotta see her. One of those things. So he came and brought her. Next day, here he comes. He kept winking and blinking and carrying on. How you like her? She's the one. Oh, huh? She's all right. I want to discourage him more or less. I know I couldn't discourage him. But about a week later, they were married.
That quick?
Mm-hmm.
He knew what he wanted.
She didn't get a chance to even buy a new dress. She married an old dress and talks about it now. He knew what he wanted. She couldn't find a fly to light on because she was scared of him. She was timid around him. She grew to like him. After a while, she grew to love him. But at first, they didn't see eye to eye. But she tried. She was putting everything she had into it. And she did grow to love him. There was nobody like him. That's why she's still single now. There's no other Malcolm X. Not in this creation.
Do you get along well with her? Do you guys keep in contact?
Now you have to know me in order to ask me that question. She was a child to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing everything in my power to help her. I didn't need her help, but she needed mine. And I went out of my way to help her. Malcolm knew it, Malcolm saw it, and he worked with me. Now when they went to Mecca, I gave her a fare to go to Mecca too. But she wouldn't go. She didn't want to follow those rules and be pinned down to being a Muslim. So she didn't go. She took her money and went to Baltimore.
Why were you always so willing to give for his causes at every step of his life? What was it about him that made you want to back him at some point people say you're grown now, you're on your own.
Well, I have a little different feeling. See, my grandfather raised me, and he had 17 grandchildren living in our house. And he felt father to all of them, and made his daughters, who were school teachers, he made them feel responsible for all of the children. 17 children is a lot of children, be around. boys and girls, cutting wood, sawing wood, feeding horses, milking cows. You're busy the beaver, you know, all the time. And when Malcolm was assigned to me, my father picked Malcolm to be mine. He said that anything ever happened to me, I won't ever raise Malcolm. That's long before he died, at least 6 months or more. But I felt responsible for Malcolm from the beginning as a sister. Then I've been along further, and I became his mother, because he was so willing to obey me. He wouldn't pick up a rock and throw it for fear to bounce back and break the glass. I would be mad. He knew. So that's about the size of it. He left the door too wide open. He wanted me to walk in and stay in. He'd come, I don't care what kind of weather they had, the train comes in Philadelphia.
Come to see you.
And he was on that train. Okay, what kind of weather was out there? He'd call and say, look like I'm going to miss the train.
Make a train sound, watch this. No. Drove us all out that cemetery, boy.
I had gotten an invitation to visit Paris from the Afro-American community in Paris, which was sponsoring a rally in conjunction with the African community. When I got to Paris, the man said I couldn't come in. Some man, French man. They gave me no explanation other than to say, we have our orders. They wouldn't let me phone the American embassy, and they tried to imply that the American embassy was behind it, which I told them that I didn't know that France was a satellite of the United States. Well, this made them angry because they like to be independent, you know, or pretend to be independent. They were taking their orders from someone as high up in the French foreign ministry who did not want me to enter France, and there's a reason for it. I don't blame them. And I told them while I was there that maybe my plane got mixed up and I was in South Africa in the wrong country. I told them this couldn't be Paris, it must be Johannesburg. And they got red. And you know how they can get red. There's a large, increasing number of dark-skinned people swelling the dark population of France and Britain, and it's giving them a great deal of cause for worry. No effort has been made to unite the Afro-American community or the American Negro community with the West Indian community, and then those two communities with the African community, and those communities with the Asian community. This has never been done. And this frightened many interests in this country. Many people in this country who want to see us the minority and who don't want to see us taking too militant or too uncompromising a stand are absolutely against the successful regrouping or organizing of any faction in this country whose thought and whose thinking pattern is international rather than national. And then if this man over here plays too rough, we got some brothers who can play as rough as he. There's a worldwide revolution going on. It goes beyond Mississippi. It goes beyond Alabama. It goes beyond Harlem. What is it revolting against? The power structure. The American power structure? No. The French power structure? No. The English power structure? No. Then what power structure? An international Western power structure. So our next move is to take the entire civil rights struggle problem into the United Nations and let the world see that Uncle Sam is guilty of violating the human rights of 22 million Afro-Americans and still has the audacity or the nerve to stand up and represent himself as the leader of the free world. There'll be a hot time in the old town. with regret, with great regret. Now, I am well aware of what I'm setting in motion by what I'm saying up here tonight. I'm well aware, but I have never said or done anything in my life that I wasn't prepared to suffer the consequences for.
Because of events out of our control. As many of you know, Sunday morning about 3 o'clock, somebody threw some bombs inside my house. Normally, I wouldn't get excited over a few bombs, but the ones who threw these not only aimed them in rooms where there was no one, but aimed them in rooms where 3 of my daughters sleep. One daughter 6, one daughter 4, and one daughter 2. And since I am quite certain that those who threw the bombs knew my house well enough to know where everyone was sleeping, I can't quite bring my heart to the point where it can in any way be merciful or from now on compromising toward anyone who can be that low. Especially when I heard on the news today that Joseph, a brother that I found in the garbage can in Detroit in 1952, well, that's where I found him, made the statement that I had bombed my own house. Now, you see, this doesn't surprise me because I know that since many of us left the Muslim movement, its intelligence and its morals have gone bankrupt. Both its intelligence and its morals have gone bankrupt. And now they are using the same tactic that's used by the Ku Klux Klan. When the Klan bombs your church, they say you did it. When they bomb the synagogue, they say the Jews bombed their own synagogue. This is the Klan tactic. And tonight, I'll tell you why the black Muslim movement is now adopting the same tactics against black people as has been up to now the exclusive method of the Ku Klux Klan. I want to point out, too, that I'm not talking about Muslims just to make white people happy, because I don't believe in letting anyone use me against somebody else. I'm telling you these things because it has reached a point where I feel that black people in this country need to know what's going on. And I'm talking about an organization which I had a hand in building, which I had a hand in organizing. I know its characteristics. I know its potential. I know its behavior pattern. I know what it can do and what it cannot do. And one of the things it can do is bomb your house and try and kill your babies. Before we get into it, I would like to point out also, as many of you know, last Tuesday or last weekend, I was invited to address the first Congress of the Council of African Organizations in London. They had a 4-day Congress from the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and had invited me there to make the closing address and bring the delegates from the various African organizations that are situated on the European continent up to date in regards to the struggle of the black man in this country in his quest for human rights and human dignity. And in conjunction with that invitation, I had gotten an invitation to visit Paris from the Afro-American community in Paris, which was sponsoring a rally in conjunction with the African community. And I was supposed to go there Tuesday also and address them and let them know the state of development or lack of development of our progress in this country for human rights or toward human rights. As many of you know, when I got to Paris, the man said I couldn't come in. Some man, French man. They gave me no explanation other than to say, we have our orders. They wouldn't let me phone the American embassy, and they tried to imply that the American embassy was behind it, which I told them that I didn't know de Gaulle had become a satellite of Lyndon B. Johnson. I knew that Kennedy had made a satellite out of Khrushchev and Britain and half of these other countries, but I didn't think that France was a satellite of the United States. Well, this made them angry because they like to be independent, you know, or pretend to be independent. But they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let me phone the American embassy. And later on, when I got back in London, and by the way, when I got back to London, there was about 20 different delegates. There were delegates from about 20 different African organizations on hand at the airport, and they were going to raise hell if anything had happened other than what should have happened. As it was, I re-entered England with no trouble, and immediately got in telephone contact with the brothers and sisters who were in Paris by telephone. And they pointed out that they had encountered some difficulty, first from the communist trade union workers. Mind you, communist trade union workers had prevented them from renting their hall, and when they went to get another hall, the same communist group had exercised its influence to prevent them from getting that hall. And finally, when they did get a hall, evidently someone was strong enough to exercise influence over the French government. And I might add that while I was in custody of the French, every time I made a request, before they would say yes or no, they telephoned the French Foreign Ministry, so that they were taking their orders from someone as high up in the French Foreign Ministry who did not want me to enter France. And there's a reason for it. I don't blame them. And I told them while I was there that maybe my plane got mixed up, and I was in South Africa, in the wrong country. I told them this couldn't be Paris, it must be Johannesburg. And they got red. And you know how they can get red. One of them was pink. The same thing happened in England. As many of you probably read in the Sunday Times and Tribune, there was a great fear in England concerning me speaking to the West Indian community. And this is because England has a very serious color problem developing, because so many of our people are migrating there from the British West Indies. France, quietly as it is kept, has a very serious color problem developing because of the migration to France of our people from the French West Indies. And with these people from the French West Indies, black people, going to France, others from the British West Indies going to England, coupled with the Asians who are coming from the Commonwealth territories, along with the Africans from French Equatorial West Africa, formerly into France, and the British possessions into Britain. There's a large, increasing number of dark-skinned people swelling the dark population of France and Britain, and is giving them a great deal of cause for worry. The only difference over there and over here being that no one of black skin in France has ever tried to unite the dark-skinned people together. Neither have they done so in England. So you can somewhat see what their fear is. No effort has been made to unite the Afro-American community or the American Negro community with the West Indian community, and then those two communities with the African community, and those communities with the Asian community. This has never been done in either England or France. But when I was in France, my journey was to Mecca to make myself an authentic Muslim and to bring them there up to date on the problems that our people who are Muslims have. Soon as we established our religious authenticity with the Muslim world, we set up the Organization of Afro-American Unity and took immediate steps to make certain that we would be in direct contact with our African brothers on the African continent. So the first step that has been taken, brothers and sisters, since Garvey died, to actually establish contact between the 22 million the 22 million black Americans with our brothers and sisters back home was done by two organizations. Done first by the Muslim Mosque, which gave us direct ties with our brothers and sisters in Asia and Africa who are Muslims. And you know we've got to unite with them because there are 700 million Muslims. And we sure need to stop being the minority and become part of the majority. So, as Muslims, we united with our Muslim brothers in Asia and Africa, and as members of the Organization of African or Afro-American Unity, we set out on a program to unite our people on this continent with our people on the mother continent. And this frightened many interests in this country. Many people in this country who want to see us the minority and who don't want to see us taking too militant or too uncompromising a stand are absolutely against the successful regrouping or organizing of any faction in this country whose thought and whose thinking pattern is international rather than national, whose thought pattern, whose hopes and aspirations are worldly rather than just within the context of the United States border or the borderline of the United States. So this has been the purpose of the OAAU and also the Muslim Mosque, to give us direct links, direct contacts, direct communication and cooperation with our brothers and sisters all over the earth. And once we are successful in uniting ourselves with our people all over the world, it puts us in a position where we no longer are a minority who can be abused and walked upon. We become a part of the majority. And then if this man over here plays too rough, we got some brothers who can play as rough as he. So that's all I have to say about that. And when the bomb was thrown, one of the bombs were thrown at the rear window of my house where my 3 little baby girls sleep. And I have no compassion or mercy or forgiveness or anything of that sort for anyone who attacks children. If you attack me, that's one thing. I know what to do when you start attacking me. But when you attack sleeping babies while you are lower than a god. So from tonight on, there'll be a hot time in the old town. With regret, with great regret. There's no organization in this country that could do more for the struggling black man than the black Muslim movement if it wanted to. But it has gotten into the possession of a man who's become senile in his old age and perhaps doesn't realize it. And then he has surrounded himself by his children who are now in power and want nothing but luxury and security and comfort and will do anything to safeguard their own interests. So I feel responsible for having played a major role in developing a criminal organization. It was not a criminal organization at the outstart. It was an organization that had the power, the spiritual power, to reform the criminal. And this is what you have to understand. As long as that strong spiritual power was in the movement, it gave the moral strength to the believer that would enable him to rise above all his negative tendencies. I know, because I went into the movement with more negative tendencies. To come to Alabama and organize the black people of Alabama and pull the sheet off the Klan ourselves. And we can do it. Brothers and sisters, we can do it. And the federal government won't do it. And since then they've been talking about a little investigation of the Klan and the Citizens Council and the black Muslims and some of the others. But they're not going to do anything. The only way the Klan is going to be stopped is if you and I organize and stop them ourselves. That will stop it. You may say, well, why am I so down on the Klan all of a sudden? And I'm going to tell you why. And why did I shift my attack from the black Muslims, Elijah Muhammad and his immoral self, to the Klan? Yes, he's immoral. You can't take 9 teenage women and seduce them and give them babies and not tell me and then tell me you're moral. You could do it if you admitted you did it and admitted that the babies were yours. I'd shake your hand and call you a man. A good one, too. But anytime you seduce teenage girls and make them be charged with adultery, make them hide your crime, why, you're not even a man, much less a divine man. So, and this is what he did. He took at least 9 that we know about. And I'm not speculating because he told this to me himself. Yes, that's why he wanted me dead, because he knew that as soon as I woke up, I'd tell it. 9 of them, not 2 of them that are suing him, but 9 of them. And the FBI knows it, the law in Chicago knows it, the press even knows it, and they won't expose the man. And you don't let me get off of here tonight without telling you why they won't expose it, why they're afraid to expose it. They know that if they expose him, that he has the most, see, the black Muslim movement, it was organized in such a way that it attracted the most militant, the most uncompromising, the most fearless, and the youngest of the black people in the United States. That's who went into it. Those who didn't mind dying, they didn't mind making a sacrifice. All they were interested in was freedom and justice and equality, and they would do anything to see that it was brought about. These are the people who have followed him for the past 12 years, and the government knows it. But all of these ultra-militants have been held in check in an organization that doesn't take an active part in anything, and therefore it cannot be a threat from January 1961, because most of the action that Muslims got involved in was action that I was involved in myself. Wherever it happened in the country, where there was some action, it was action that I was involved in because I believed in action. I never have gone along with no Ku Klux Klan. And another one that he had made a deal with was this man Rockwell. Rockwell and Elijah Muhammad are regular correspondents with each other. You can hate me for telling you this, but I'm going to tell it to you. Rockwell attended the rallies because Elijah Muhammad put the OK on it. And Sharif, the captain of the FOI, and I had discussed it, wondering why Rockwell could come to our meetings, because until Elijah Muhammad and the black Muslim movement were to crumble, that all of those militants who formerly were in it and held in check would immediately become involved in the civil rights struggle, and they would add the same kind of energy to the civil rights struggle that they gave to the black Muslim movement. And there's a great fear, you know yourself. White people don't like for black people to get involved in anything to do with civil rights unless those black people are nonviolent, loving, patient, forgiving, and all of that. They don't like for them to. And there has been a conspiracy across the country on the part of many factions of the press to suppress news that would open the eyes of the Muslims who are following Elijah Muhammad. They continue to make him look like he's a prophet somewhere who is getting some messages direct from God and is untouchable and things of that sort. I'm telling you the truth. But they do know that if something were to happen and all these brothers their eyes were to come open, they would be right out here in every one of these civil rights organizations making these Uncle Tom Negro leaders stand up and fight like men instead of running around here non-violently acting like women. So they hope that Elijah Muhammad remains as he is for a long time, because they know that any organization that he heads, it will not do anything in the struggle that the black man is confronted with in this country. Proof of which, look how violent they can get. They were violent, they've been violent from coast to coast. Muslims in the Muslim movement have been involved in cold, calculated violence. And not at one time have they been involved in any violence against the Ku Klux Klan. They're capable, they're qualified, they're equipped, they know how to do it, but they'll never do it only to another brother. Now, I am well aware of what I'm setting in motion by what I'm saying up here tonight. I'm well aware. But I have never said or done anything in my life that I wasn't prepared to suffer the consequences for. Now, what does this have to do with France, and England, and the United States? You and I are living at a time when there's a revolution going on, a worldwide revolution. It goes beyond Mississippi. It goes beyond Alabama. It goes beyond Harlem. There's a worldwide revolution going on, and it's in two phases. Number one, what is it revolting against? The power structure. The American power structure? No. The French power structure? No. The English power structure? No. Then what power structure? An international Western power structure. An international power structure consisting of American interests because he's white. No, I shake his hand if he's all right. But first he's got to get all right. The standard of judgment from a Muslim is behavior. I wanted you to know that my house was bombed. It was bombed by the black Muslim movement upon the orders of Elijah Muhammad. Now they had come around they had planned to do it from the front and the back so that I couldn't get out. They covered the front completely, the front door. Then they had come to the back, but instead of getting directly in the back of the house and throwing it this way, they stood at a 45-degree angle and tossed it at the window so it glanced and went onto the ground. And the fire hit the window, and it woke up my second oldest baby. But the fire burned on the outside of the house. But had that one gone through that window, it would have fallen on a 6-year-old girl, a 4-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old girl. And I'm going to tell you, if it had done it, I'd taken my rifle and gone after anybody in sight. I would not wait. And I say that because of this. The police know the criminal operation of the black Muslim movement because they have thoroughly infiltrated it. That the city police don't know about, because they have policemen in there. They don't let black people form anything without some policemen in there. And while I was in the black Muslim movement, many of the police who were sent to infiltrate us, they're black, would tell me, say, look, I'm a cop, but I have to come. They would tell me. I knew the Muslim movement was full of police. So don't you think anything is going down that they don't know about. The only thing that goes down is what they want to go down. And what they don't want to go down, they don't let it go down. One last question. Yes, sir. The only thing that I regret in all of this is that two black groups have to fight and kill each other off. Elijah Muhammad could stop the whole thing tomorrow just by raising his hand. Really, he could. He could stop the whole thing by raising his hand. But he won't. He doesn't love black people. He doesn't even love his own followers. Proof of which they're killing each other. They killed one in the Bronx. They shot another one in the Bronx. They tried to get 6 of us Sunday morning. And the pattern has developed across the country. The man has gone insane, absolutely out of his mind. Besides, you can't be 70 years old and surround yourself by a handful of 16, 17, 18-year-old girls and keep your right mind. You can't do it. For the betterment of the community by any means necessary. And since tonight we had to get into this old nasty negative subject, we didn't want to bring up our program. We're going to have. But as the African nation got it, we became proud of it. And when they became proud of it, we began to have something in effect with it. But
you mentioned conspiracy between the black Muslims and the right wing of this country. Could you elaborate on that?
I mentioned the conspiracy between the Muslims and the right wing in this country. I know for a fact that there is a conspiracy between the Muslims and the Lincoln Rockwell Nazi and also the Ku Klux Klan. There is a conspiracy.
Describe this conspiracy.
Well, the Ku Klux Klan made a deal, or were trying to make a deal with Elijah Muhammad in 1960 in the home of Jeremiah X, the minister in Atlanta at that time, who at present is the minister in Philadelphia. They were trying to make a deal with him to make available to Elijah Muhammad a county, a size tract of land in Georgia or South Carolina, where Elijah Muhammad could then induce Negroes to migrate and make it appear that his program of a segregated state or separated state was feasible. And to what extent these negotiations finally developed, I do not know, because I was not involved in them beyond the period of December 1960. But I do know that after that, Jeremiah, who was the minister throughout the South, could roam the entire South, and the Klan not bother him in any way, shape, or form, nor would they bother any of the black Muslims from then on, nor would the black Muslims bother the Klan.
Are you inferring then that because of this conspiracy, the attempt was made upon your life?
The attempt could have been made upon my life. Ask that again.
Are you inferring that because of this conspiracy, the attempt was made on your life?
Not necessarily that conspiracy. The attempt was made upon my life because I speak my mind and I know too much, and they know that I will speak it whether they like it or not. Pardon me?
Are you urging your followers to take any actions against the Muslims?
Am I urging my followers to take action against the Muslims? No. No.
When you say you rely on Allah or protection Allah, you've always been some kind of activist. Do you still think that you're going to try to infiltrate their organization and win over some of their supporters?
Am I going to try and infiltrate their organization and win over some of their supporters? No, I have never tried to win supporters from Elijah Muhammad. Since I have left the black Muslim movement, I've spoken at these rallies. Those who come, come. Those who don't, don't. But I've never gone out of my way to win over any of his followers. And he himself is fearful because he knows that you don't have to exercise too much energy to win his followers. As soon as they know truth and compare the two, and by the way, this is the brother, I didn't even see you there, brother. This is Leon Amir, who was Cassius Clay's secretary, whom they beat unmercifully up in Boston. And the court freed the men who beat him. They fined him $100, was it? Yeah, fined him $100. And he was on the inside of the black Muslim specialty squad. And I know it. And it was he who heard Elijah Muhammad Jr. come to New York when Elijah Muhammad was at the Armory in June of last year. Jr. stood up and told the fruit, many of whom are here now also, that I should have been killed, that my tongue should have been put in an envelope and sent back to Chicago by now. And because Fat Joseph had not done it, they demoted him. He remained captain, but Clarence up in Boston was put over Joseph. And Joseph's authority was curtailed. And then Clarence, the captain from Boston, and John, the captain from Springfield, came to New York to assassinate me and came to him to get a silencer and couldn't get it. So the police know this. It's not something that's new. They just wait until the job is done and then they step in.
When you say, do you know that Elijah Muhammad was behind this?
Yes, now, Elijah Muhammad called all of his officials, national officials, to Chicago in October and ordered them to kill or maim any of his followers who leave him to follow me. Well, when you say, how do I know, many of the brothers who were in at that time are out now. And if this ever come into the court, there are plenty of witnesses who can stand up and testify to it. Pardon? Pardon?
This specific bombing. Do you have any?
I'd rather not say at this time.
When you say you know too much, what do you mean?
Who's the next one? Give them 2 more minutes. Give them 2 more minutes and we'll end it.
Nobody's going to clean up all of us and we'll control it. And you said, including the politics.
Yes.
So what, can you elaborate a little bit on
Yes,
politics?
when I said that no one can clean up our home but us, and that we will clean it up, including and no one should control it but us, including the politics, what do I mean? I mean exactly that. That the black people. You're thinking of who? Powell? Powell's one of us. No, he's not a member of our organization, but when I say he's one of us, I mean he's one of the family. And no one outside the family can get us to talk about him. If we talk about him, we talk about him within the family. But nobody outside the family can instigate us against power. Yes, by controlling it politically, I mean that the politics of the community of Harlem should be controlled by those of us who live in Harlem, not by somebody sitting down in Gracie Mansion. Sir? No, but the Organization of Afro-American Unity intends to get involved in every kind of action that's going on in New York City. We don't intend to let anybody downtown influence us in any way, shape, or form. We want the influence to come from Harlem and from other Harlems around the country. Now, this doesn't mean we're anti-outside of Harlem. This doesn't mean we're anti-Bronx or anti-White Plains or anti-white or anti-German or anything like that. But it means we're pro-Harlem. We're pro-ourselves. We want to start doing something for ourselves. That's all it means. It means that we want to stop begging you for your school. We want you to get out of the way and let us straighten out the schools in Harlem. Yes, sir. I just answered it when I said from tonight on there'll be a hot time in the old town. I answered it when this gentleman over here asked. It's a song that we used to sing. An implication, an implied threat. I never imply any threats to anyone. I'm a Muslim. My religion is Islam. It's a religion of peace. And sir? Yes, I do believe there'll be further attempts on my life. I know them. They're foaming at the mouth. The rank and file Muslim means well. It's those at the hierarchy who are living off the fatted calf who don't mean well. And this coming Sunday at 2 o'clock, as I say, our program will be unfolded. Elijah Muhammad knows he has done some good things and he has done some bad things. He knows that if he had wanted to, he could have united our people with the Muslim world just by teaching the right religion of Islam. He could have done so. The entire Muslim world would have accepted him. As it is now, the Muslim world has rejected him. He can never go into the Muslim world saying that he's a prophet or that Allah came over here in the flesh. They would cut his head off if he said that over there. I mean, he knows this. None of his followers can go over there without denouncing him. It's impossible for them to go to Mecca or any other place unless they ascribe to Islam as it is ascribed to over there. So he was in a position to unite us with the Muslim world, those of us who are Muslims. He was also in a position to unite us with Africa. But you cannot read anything that Elijah Muhammad has ever written that's pro-African. I defy you to find one word in his direct writing that's pro-African. You can't find it. Listen to this question this man asked me. What are you trying to get at? No, he asked me, look, I got to tell him what you asked me. He asked me, don't I think if I got hurt, you know, wouldn't some of my followers retaliate? What are you trying to say? Or what are you trying to get me to say? I mean, it's okay. I'm not going to get you in any trouble. These are your friends in here. But I just want them to hear what you're asking me. That's all. I just want them to hear what you're asking me. You wouldn't get no trouble in here, would he? No. Yes, sir. Last question. I'm under a civil court order to get out of my house in Queens. You know, I only heard, somebody told me that they heard that on the radio. I know nothing about it. And I haven't discussed it with the lawyer yet, and I won't make any comments until I discuss it with the lawyer. But I just hope that nobody tries to go in there while what's left of my belongings are there. Sir?
We have reports that your own manifestation outside your house.
Some have been in the vicinity, yes, and some policemen, too, have been nice enough to watch the house ever since it was bombed. I wish they had been watching it while it was bombed. Yeah, a great deal of my personal belongings were lost. They threw 4 bombs in there. I might point this out, that these who did it were so vicious, and those who did it knew the whole layout of the house. They, and to show you why I believe in Allah, the bombs that were thrown into the front part of the house were thrown directly against the window, you know, so they came through. But before they threw the first one, the neighbor saw someone go up to the window with a mop-like instrument and break the window, crack the glass. And then they threw the bombs in after the glass was broken. And that was in the front part.
The Muslims claim that you bombed your own house.
That's what I said. The Muslims claim I bombed my house.
Well, because they say it's rightfully there.
Yeah. No, well, you can take what you want. The arson squad, the fire marshal, all of them are experts in this kind of thing. And if anybody can find where I bombed my house, they can put a rifle bullet through my head. It was my children and my own life and my wife's life that was at stake. In fact, let me tell you something, sir. I stood, you know what what temperature was? It was about 15 or 20. I stood in my underwear, bare feet, in the middle of my driveway with a gun in my hand for 45 minutes, waiting for the police or waiting for the fire department to come. If I want to put on a show, I can find a better way than that to put it on. That's all. There's our brothers and sisters. Here's the Saturday Evening Post, dated February the 27th, 1965. And in it, there's an article titled, "An Ex-Official Tells Why the Black Muslims Are a Fraud." This is one of the brothers in Boston who was formerly the secretary up there, and who is the cousin of Ronald Stokes, the brother who was killed out in California in April of 1962. And I would like to say this before anything else, and that is, don't think that I don't know how bad I make myself look by attacking an organization that I was once so inseparably a part of. But I'm not particularly concerned with how bad it makes me look. My prime concern is to expose it to the fullest of my ability. Let the chips fall where they may. And if the black Muslim movement says that I'm wrong in what I say, then I say, since they are so well qualified and equipped, let them attack the Klan. Let them go find out, let them get the persons who bombed that church in Birmingham. Because I'll go get them. I'll go and attack the Klan and attack Rockwell and any of the others. And I defy them to do so. They can't do it because they both have the same paymaster. So now our question period. And you have to stand up because I can't see beyond this man's light.
Jumped out of if he just wanted to jump out the window. And I am appealing to you and the rest of us here who have Harlem and our concern at heart. What can we do and what must we do to avoid something else like this?
This is what I meant earlier when I said concerning the importance of our controlling Harlem. As long as we have outsiders running our hospitals and our schools and our everything else, they will run us right on out of existence. I would suggest that you come over to the office and see what we can get our heads together on and see what we can do. Anything I can do, I certainly will, and I know all the brothers and sisters will.
I think that the white people should be ashamed of the deplorable situation that has been existing in the Congo, which is not the fault of the Congolese, but which is the result of instigation by European powers who are fighting each other over the mineral wealth of the Congo. And now to make it appear that The Congolese themselves are criminals, are brutes, because they're reacting to these injustices that they've been victimized by, is again ducking the question. My opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this.
In my own Bible, it was already marked what was written on her shit. Can't make this shit up. I can't make this motherfucking shit up, dog. It was already written. I don't even know where I got this Bible. Check this shit out. See what I'm talking about? I ain't no bullshitter. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall I add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them up about thy neck, write them upon the table of thine heart, so shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all ways and acknowledge him. And
where I feel that black people in this country need to know what's going on. And I'm talking about an organization which I had a hand in building, which I had a hand in organizing. I know its characteristics. I know its potential. I know its behavior pattern. I know what it can do and what it cannot do. And one of the things it can do is bomb your house and try and kill your babies. And when the bomb was thrown, one of the bombs were thrown at the rear window of my house where my 3 little baby girls sleep. And I have no compassion or mercy or forgiveness or anything of that sort for anyone who attacks children. If you attack me, that's one thing. I know what to do when you start attacking me. But when you attack sleeping babies while you are lower than a god... So that's all I have to say about that. See, the black Muslim movement, it was organized in such a way that it attracted the most militant, the most uncompromising, the most fearless, and the youngest of the black people in the United States. That's who went into it. Those who didn't mind dying, they didn't mind making a sacrifice. All they were interested in was freedom and justice and equality, and they would do anything to see that it was brought about. These are the people who have followed him for the past 12 years. And the government knows it. But all of these ultra-militants have been held in check in an organization that doesn't take an active part in anything. And therefore it cannot be a threat from January 1961 because most of the action that Muslims got involved in was action that I was involved in myself. Wherever it happened in the country, where there was some action, it was action that I was involved in because I believed in action. I never have gone along with no Ku Klux Klan. To come to Alabama and organize the black people of Alabama and pull the sheet off the Klan ourselves. And we can do it. Brothers and sisters, we can do it. And the federal government won't do it. And since then, they've been talking about a little investigation of the Klan and Citizens Council and the black Muslims and some of the others. But they're not going to do anything. The only way the Klan is going to be stopped is if you and I organize and stop them ourselves. That will stop it. You may say, well, why am I so down on the Klan all of a sudden? And I'm going to tell you why.
Can I ask one more? If there is another attempt, and assuming they hurt you or anything, don't you think that some of your followers might want to retaliate?
Listen to this question this man asked me. What are you trying to get at? No, he asked me, listen, I got to tell him what you asked me. He asked me, don't I think if I got hurt, you know, wouldn't some of my followers retaliate? What are you trying to say? Or what are you trying to get me to say? I mean, it's okay. I'm not going to get you in any trouble. These are your friends in here. But I just want them to hear what you're asking me. That's all. So that's all I have to say about that. I just want them to hear what you're asking me. You wouldn't get no trouble in here, would he? No. Yes, sir. The Muslim mosque to give us direct links, direct contacts, direct communication and cooperation with our brothers and sisters all over the earth. And once we are successful in uniting ourselves with our people all over the world, it puts us in a position where we no longer are a minority who can be abused and walked upon. We become a part of the majority. And then if this man over here plays too rough, we got some brothers who can play as rough as he.
I fucking came down here to get my car and I forgot my keys. Yes, he was. Hey, Tina, what can you tell me about the Williams family from Alabama? Crazy. But let me see. They all came from Mobile, Alabama, Hamilton, and there was Abels.
Abels, Nichols, Pritchett's, Palmer's.
Abels, Nichols, Pritchett's, Palmer's. Damn, that's crazy. They was Abels, and they were all KKK, and they all hung people.
And then Michael Rocky came down years later, and then Michael Davis ended up hanging out years later.
And they were white. Who hugged them?
They say Rocky hung himself and didn't know when it was.
What he did, tell something? Because Patrick told me that when he was younger, the older people told him he didn't keep his mouth shut, he'd get dead too.
They don't know who hung Damer. But Damer did have a daughter that had a Mexican son and 4 black kids, 4 mixed kids.
One of the Williams, does anything happen to them?
She moved off from Chicago and we've seen her since.
Who'd she have kids by? Did he get killed?
He's from Chicago.
You know any of the people they hugged? You know Malcolm Little's grandpa was hung down there? Hey, that's where Martin Luther King's family's from. And her freaking name was Williams, man. And they murdered her 7 years after they killed King while she was playing the harp in church. They said the war made me do it, war made me do it. And his brother ended up drowning in a pond in his own swimming pool, with rope marks around his neck. And his sister died while jogging.
Then all of a sudden they moved James and
Your daddy's side of the family, fucking.
Where do you think it came from?
His grandpa, Blake's grandpa was a hitman for Walter Richardson.
Who's Walter Richardson?
Terry Richardson's dad.
Straight the fuck up.
Took him out room 21 at Moore's, where it used to be Cotton Bow.
Room 121 is that on the back side?
On the back side, the very back side, the first room on the back side. When you go straight through there and you turn to your left, that very first one.
That's where I stayed in the one beside that, and it looks just like the room they killed King in.
Well, they say that's what he did for a living. He killed people.
What was his name? Walter Richardson. Why did he want to kill people?
That's what they did back in the day. Blake's grandpa was a fucking hitman. I'm like, God damn.
What was his name? Her great-great-great-great-grandpa's Jesse James on Richardson's side.
See, Elvis Presley's my fourth cousin, my mom's third cousin.
Really?
Really.
Who's your mom?
Della.
What was her last name?
Williams.
She was the Williams?
Another cousin that was a country singer, Billy Joe Royal.
Billy Joe Royal?
Mm-hmm.
Where at?
told me OD, but he didn't do drugs. In Nashville.
In Nashville? That is crazy as hell. Walter Richardson is Barry Richardson's dad. Well, Barry Richardson was the mayor here in 1968, so who's that?
That's this Barry, that's his dad. So this Barry that's still alive right now, Walter is his brother.
Oh. That's crazy.
Yeah. Sometimes I can't help what I'm doing, what they done.
That's how I feel about the Esseses. They're all evil. I've been finding out, man. They didn't have plot.
My mom was the seventh child. You know, back in the day, it was seventh child, seventh son, and she was born with a Bell skin completely over her face.
So Blaine said his grandma was.
His grandma was too, and that's what's odd. Normally, that don't happen. Two families
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it's a sign of evil.
Sign of evil?
A real sign of evil. They would kill them back in the day, and I don't know how the hell my mom...
Did they kill? What did they see?
They couldn't see nothing, but they could tell the future.
And it was all evil stuff?
Like my grandma, May Williams, the one in the village, all of you, she was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian gypsy witch. She'd tell you, she'd read your palm. My dad would let me go out there. After I was 3 years old, I'd come home and tell my dad. I said, she read my palm today, and that's like I told her, don't do that shit. She told me I would crawl to my death on my 21st birthday. I would be beaten to death. Fuck. Well, she almost got it right. I was getting beat all the time. I blamed her, but it wasn't beating me. It was my 21st birthday instead of home. Didn't go nowhere.
That's crazy.
I didn't believe the shit skulls in her house, all kind of crazy shit.
Is the Cherokee all evil?
No, well, they ain't good people.
The hell is that? Oh, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And then William Pepper said that he had a tip from somebody that there was somebody that has been knocking off the kings, like all the kings' horses and all the kings' men. And he said, but he didn't think that was really important.
Shit.
I can't believe they're all from Alabama.
Ah, you can go back there. My mom made me move back down there when I was 15. I go to school down there and I'm looking at all these motherfuckers. Everybody in school keen to you. You can't date nobody.
If you say Alabama, it kind of sounds like Alabama. Our lamb.
I said, what do y'all do for fun down here? Anybody smoke pot? I mean, what do y'all do? And we all went to a party out in the country, but George Jones had an old camper. And he literally showed up. I said, these motherfuckers are retarded out there making moonshine. And I'm like, I'm 15, I smoke pot, y'all drink moonshine, and I don't do this shit.
What, George Jones, he hung people too?
He was close to our family.
I want to hear George Jones.
Motherfucker. He's mean. He's a mean motherfucking girl.
He's bead?
Yeah.
Well, who's he bead?
Dobros and banjos and shit. I'm like, where are y'all getting all this shit? I want to go home. I want to go to Missouri.
What was he mean about?
He's just a mean-tempered person.
And you know, Portersville is the number A1 controlled government city. I'm thinking Alabama. I'm thinking AAA, Atlanta, Alabama, Arkansas. It's crazy. What about the Angels? Were that whole side of that family is evil?
That motherfucker's just fucked in the head. I don't know. Aunt Brenda used to not be like that.
Who?
Little Aunt Brenda, she used to not be like that at all. I mean, God forbid, I don't know what the fuck.
What, do you know anything about Merlin Angel?
Tommy's dad?
Yeah.
I don't remember him much.
Because Merlin was like a witch.
Is he?
Yeah. Bad. He fell in love with the Lady of the Lake from Hayti, and she didn't want him. He tried to cast spells.
See, and Blaine's grandma, she poisoned her. She killed two of her husbands. She would Blaine.
And one of his names is Westbrook, and on the Pemiscot County place names, one of the place names for Pemiscot County is Westbrook. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot of, like, if you look up Pemiscot County place names and go down that list, you'll be like, oh my God. It's crazy, man. Shit that is right there for us to see, and we don't see it.
Yeah.
Coontown.
Grandpa was a Mason.
And see, all my granny's sisters, they were Masons. Their last names were Masons, and they were all sacrificed. Her brothers, too. Then that, you know that song, The First Noel? It's called The First Now. And then the Bible is called the Now Codex, and they changed it to Beowulf. Wolf Bayo, say that backwards, Beowulf. And the only motherfucker out there at that cemetery out there by Wolf Bayou is Claudie Cook. Yeah, Claudie Cook. And a year before there was Claudie Cook, there was Claudie Estes that died in a horrible train crash.
Mom's birthday was February 11th. John's birthday was December 11th. My little brother that died was August 11th, and I was born on November 10th. What the fuck?
All the Williams?
No, like Mom's kids and then Brenda's kids were born like the date.
The Angels and the Williams? They had the same numbers with different months? The Angels and the Williams. That's deep.
Yeah. Sylvia Brown, that sidekick or whatever, I went and seen her tape one time, me and Charlotte Dunn. And she's like,
The Dunns, man, that's some deep shit right there.
I mean, she was like a deal. Anyway, said that like your siblings that were born on the same day of the month will all go out on the same day of the month. I'm like, and I asked her, I said, well, does it mean that like, say we have a car wreck and everybody's gonna get killed at the same time or something? She's like, no. Say your brother that died, the first one that died was Gabriel, and he was a baby. So he only lived like a month or two. He died on the 13th. So since John was on the 11th, let me get back to that. John will die on the 13th of some year, of some day. Mom died on the 13th.
Damn. See, it's all about them numbers. They got that shit planned up. How'd the Angels meet with the Williams? When they got to Portersville? Is all the Angels are from here, right? And that bitch, Greasy Arzine, up some French, right beside her headstone, which is Aunt Bobby's grandma. Right beside her headstone is stone, our little baby angels. And all around them is Richardson's.
You ever find out where the insane asylum was over towards?
I
want to go.
I know where it's at, man, whenever you want to go. I know where it's at. Dude just came over this morning. I said, give me them directions. Yeah, it's crazy shit. He said, you turn at the floodways, right? Turn right there is the floodways, and it's the second gravel to the left. And you go there, and it's on the second bridge, and you'll see all the buildings. I want to go out to that bitch, I swear.
First chance I get, we're going.
When you come and get me.
I can't wait. I love shit like that.
Yeah, that's where Freddy Krueger's mom was really killed. Because when Freddy Krueger, his story, which my grandma Mary's baby, Freddie Dedge, was taken from her in 1948, but Freddy Krueger came out in 1984. But they said when his mom was raped at that insane asylum that he was adopted by the Underwoods and got a job at the local aluminum plant. That's what it says. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it's Nightmare on Elm Street. Elm Street is right there behind Jerry's, where that trucking company is. Yeah. It sure is. And the other one is in Springfield. And Freddy Krueger is Springwood. And yeah, it's crazy. And see, that's the insane asylum right there. We need to go to that bitch. I'm ready when you are. All right, I'll be waiting. Voodoo trees and hanging trees. I got a nest for these nuts. Voodoo trees, hanging trees. Ain't no more of these. Voodoo trees and hanging trees. I got a nest for these nuts. Voodoo trees, hanging trees. Ain't no more of these.
There you go.
Get back, son.
You doing right?
Get back. It's gonna go. This is what I think what they do, and then hang people in them fucking trees. I'm burn all the motherfuckers down if I have to. So we won't. I ain't got